Welcome to the third presentation on the Tableware for the Changing City project that I'm doing. What we've had so far is 21st century tableware and trends. I've spoken a bit about the building that I'm looking at in particular, which was Thornton Hospital. This one is my first of a kind of series that I'm going to do on small important sections and purposes of the hospital. So this one is Edwardian and it being a fever hospital. Presentation is going to be background of the fever hospital, looking at a more contextual bit on Edwardian era in general, and then Edwardian tableware. 1902, this was a fever hospital. Its actual name was Kirkcaldy District Infectious Diseases Hospital. That's a really big mouthful to kind of say. Up until the 1950s, this is what it was labelled as in the OS map. Like I said in my previous presentation, if you watch that, it's for like meningitis, diphtheria, scalp fever, etc. There was an additional building built after 1902, which was Fosterton Hospital, for smallpox isolation. Just this is a really important date. So a year after the building had been opened, 1903, there was a typhoid epidemic within Fife, and the hospital was at full capacity, mainly from miners. There's lots of information about that if you want to read up on it. I think the miners were all kind of from Lahore and Logelly. So yeah, this is a really important hospital, a really important bit of history in Fife. So that's kind of mainly about the background of the building. What was 1902 onwards? Well, 1902 was the Edwardian era. Queen Victoria just died, so King Edward had his coronation 1902 to 1910. For those that are political and know a bit more about political things, I don't. It was a Conservative government for 4 years, and then it was 2 runs of Liberal, which I now know if it was kind of nowadays terms, it would be Labour, and that's who Liberal were taken over by. So that's a bit of what's going on in the outside world. And how things could have affected the stuff that was going inside the hospital. I went and asked people outside of my research, kind of on the laptop in the library, and I just basically asked them what they thought Edwardian era was, and they came out with overcrowded, unhygienic, poverty, and cups of tea. So that's people's perceptions of what that era was like. So could you imagine what was in the hospital that we don't know much about? Just going to leave that thought for you. Next, let's talk about tableware in the Edwardian era. So it was an era of food being a spectacle. It was all about glamour cooking. It was kind of food was a really important bit. It was families. It was, not just grabbing an apple and going. Fruits were expensive and exotic, so not many people had them. That meant that they really influenced, berries, pears, and birds, leaves and branches. They really influenced patterns that were on kind of like silverware and cutlery and even just decorations on like plates and stuff like that. And that gave a sense of, that this person, if they had it on their knives and forks, it was suggestive that they were expensive. They had a little bit of exoticness to them as well. Tea time! So because, as I said kind of 2 slides ago, that people thought of tea when they thought of Edwardian, I did research specifically on tea time, having high tea and cups of tea within Edwardian eras, and I found out that they pretty much had like little plates and little spoons and pincher things for everything. They had, you know, a saucer for your cup to go on, they had a little plate thing that held your spoons after you give your tea a bit of a stir so it didn't go on the table. There was a bowl for sugar. There was a sugar shaker thing, kind of like a salt and pepper, but it was for sugar. And again, different spoons for sugar, different spoons for the tea. Obviously, there wasn't much of like tea bags back in those days, so it was tea leaves in like a kind of sieve. And again, I've already said designs were really based around like food and exoticness, and they were really intricate, so they're really detailed, so they actually looked like what they were supposed to. Here's some examples of the stuff I've just been talking about. Sorry. You can see, you know, it's really kind of botanical, lots of swirls, and flowers, and kind of animals that you don't really see. I think they've got a really nice quality to them, so yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy doing this project. This spoon in particular, in the middle, I absolutely love. I love that it's a spoon, like, so that is, can you imagine how small that this is? And they've got such detail on it that you can see clearly what it's supposed to be. You can see the veins of the leaves and the dots to give it a bit of texture. So I think out of all of them, I'm going to find out how this is actually made and what the technique is, because I'm not really sure. It could be chasing, or it could be domed, or I don't really know, so I'll go and check that out. And yeah, the 2 things at sides are obviously quite clearly teapots. The one on the left is kind of heated underneath, so nowadays we have a kettle, we switch it on by the plug, flip the switch. Some people do it on the oven. This was kind of a really old-fashioned, really kind of back in the day thing, and they had like a little candle or something underneath it, and they would wait until it heated up that way. The one on the right, I don't actually think that this one is from 1902. I'm not really 1900s. I'm not sure, but there's things that are like this that kind of kept on recurring in my research, and it basically made it easier to kind of pick up and pour in the hot water, obviously. So yeah, there's just some examples that I found that I kind of really like. What's next? Well, I'm going to take all this kind of research and do some work in my sketchbook, and come up with some kind of design ideas, whether it's going to be, you know, a spoon, whether I'm going to make a teacup, play around with colours, and obviously learn some new techniques, my techniques in metalwork and jewellery and tableware and all this kind of stuff. I'm really kind of limited at the minute, so that's going to be fun, I think, learning how to do some new things. 3, my last one, is more about my next presentation. My next kind of step in the building will be post-war tableware, which is around about when the building became Strathall Hospital. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next kind of 2 weeks. I feel like they're kind of getting a bit rushed, but it's, don't know. I hope this has been enough information. And again, if you want any more details of what I'm doing, get in touch with me, or go and do some research yourself. Like, it's not completely difficult to check out all this stuff. So yeah, look out for my next post, on which is going to be post-war tableware and a bit about the Strathmore Hospital. So thanks again.